Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportBikeTrackGear.com. Today we're going to break down the Woodcraft 1.5-inch rise, race-only Kawasaki Ninja 400 clip-on install. Okay. In this video, I'm going to break down the complete install on the Woodcraft Ninja 400 race-specific 1.5-inch rise clip-ons. These are different than the standard Woodcraft Ninja 400 clip-ons that will work with the OEM bodywork. They require the use of a steering stop. On this particular motorcycle, we've been running the Norton Motorsport steering stop, so I already had that done. There is also a possibility that you're going to run into interference with the race bodywork, and that's going to depend on where you position the clip-ons. Previously on this motorcycle, we had the Evoltech clip-ons, which put the bars for the Ninja 400 in what I feel were the most ergonomically correct spot for racing and or track day riding. In order to facilitate that, I had to do a whole shitload of trimming, okay? We're running the OEM gauge holder, this big plastic piece that used to come all the way back here. I already relieved all that for those other clip-ons, so that's already done. The bodywork that's on the bike right now is a set of armor bodies that we had. I had to cut that all out in this area as well on both sides to allow for full sweep of the bars, okay? The type of bodywork that you're running is definitely going to have an impact, and also the height that you run the clip-ons at is going to have an impact on the changes that you may or may not need to make to the bodywork. But I will tell you in advance, the steering stop is a must-have. You have to have that or you're going to have issues. We are also running these about 6 millimeters below the top triple tree. This puts the bars at essentially the same position that the Evoltech clip-ons were at. That is what Max really liked, and we want to continue with that when we build the bike for 2022, okay? Watch the install. If you have any questions, always remember to leave those in the comment section of this video. I answer all that stuff myself. I'm here to make sure you get the right result from your project. Okay, so to begin this install, as you can see, the bike is already disassembled. We've done plenty of clip-on installs on the channel already, even on this bike right here. There's no reason to start off from a point of being fully assembled. Woodcraft, in designing this kit, has done a couple of cool things. You can see here that on the clip-on cuff itself, we have some index marks etched into the top portion of the cuff. Each cuff will also have etched in which side it is. Of course, for the throttle side, you've got the right, and for the clutch side, you've got the left. To begin this install, we're going to start by getting the cuffs installed underneath the top triple clamp. Just going to go ahead and leave these loose. One of the most important steps, in my opinion, when you have a split cuff like this, is going to be making sure you have a relatively even gap between the two halves. And I'll show you what we're talking about here right now. So you see that gap there and this one here? What you want to do is you want to kind of play with this a little bit and just establish, you know, a point of reference for that gap, because two of these bolts are a little easier to get to. So I like to start off from a pretty even point. What you don't want to do is when you're tightening these down, have one side that's completely compressed and another side that has a gap. I like that right there. Once I've got them to a spot where I feel it's pretty even, you know, because they can be a little bit tougher to get to, right? These that are underneath the top triple, are definitely harder to get to. So once I've established a pretty even gap, what I'll do is I'll actually kind of torque them down one time. And then I will loosen up just the two that I can reach easily. Like so. And go ahead and snug those up. And now we'll begin assembling the body of the riser itself. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and put the riser onto the clip-on cuff itself. They do supply some torque specs for this. All the hardware here is going to need just a little bit of blue Loctite. It's all tapered seat stuff, so there's a lot of surface area here to ensure that they won't come loose down the road. Normally these would start really easy by hand. We already did this install one time, and we decided that we just weren't quite happy with the footage that we had, so we're reshooting. So I did clean the Loctite off of these once already. So just if you notice that while I'm threading these in here, it's going to be a different experience when they're brand new. Over the years, I've installed a couple of set of these risers that we've used on different bikes, and what I can tell you is I've never actually had this hardware come loose. Every time that I've assembled these using the blue Loctite, even after crashes, I've never had a situation where I've had to tighten the bolts. Okay, the torque specs for the smaller fastener are about 9 foot-pounds, not much. That's 9 right there. For the larger two on the bottom, it's 24. Those are a 5 mil. The smaller one is a 4. Turtle hex. Okay, from here we can begin building out the clip-on. We use, there's two different styles of lever guard. Okay, the Woodcraft lever guard, if you're going to use that one, you're going to want to order these with a longer bar. The reason behind that is their lever guard clamps over the end of the bar itself, so you need a little bit longer bar length to accommodate that. The ones that we're using on this bike, we're using, and this is just the stuff we took off from last year, a driven guard that is internal, so we have to remove the bar end from the end of the bar, and then we slide that in and torque that down. There are going to be a few steps here that I'm not going to show you. One of the things that I do like to do anytime I'm replacing clip-ons is I like to put a very thin film of just grease, you know, or like maybe a silicone lube on the inside of the throttle tube. Just make sure there is no binding in that area. We're not going to show that on camera. This bike that we have here right now, this is our original Ninja 400 project bike from 2018, believe it or not. This is what Max raced this year in Moto America. We have a brand new bike coming for next year, so we have one that is eligible for contingency. We're hopeful that Max Man finishes in the money, as they say, next year. I think he learned a lot this year that should be pretty beneficial going into 2022. So, I'll make sure we get the kid a new bike. I got a 22 Ninja 400 on the way to us right now, as well as another project bike that we're going to do. It's been a hot minute since we've done that. We're looking forward to having a new build here. It's not just a race bike for Moto America. There's our on-off switch. We've got the Motion Pro Rev 2 quick turn throttle on this bike. You know, you may have something different on yours. When I'm installing the throttle, I like to make sure that there is no way the end of the throttle tube can touch the lever guard, right? There needs to be enough space here that there's no way the grip could slide off and grab onto the lever guard, or that the tube itself could touch that. So, you know, I'll kind of mess with this a little bit and make sure we have just enough of a gap there that even when you're pulling on it just a little bit, that just isn't going to happen. Safety, you know, is the most important thing, especially with your controls. You just can't make mistakes. If you guys have been to our channel before, our website, you know, you've probably seen, like I did that video on the knockoff levers. You know, I definitely believe that when it comes to the controls on your motorcycle, hand or foot, there's just zero margin for error. You know, everything needs to be perfect. I mean, it's easy enough to make a mistake even when the bike is right on the track and have a fall. The last thing you want to do is, you know, have a situation due to a completely avoidable mechanical, or because you're trying to save 30 bucks on a set of levers or something. Take your time and make sure the end result is 100% perfect. In this video, you know, we're just going to give you a pretty good overview of what these clip-ons are about, because they're different. You know, they're different than a pair that's compatible with the OEM bodywork. They require trimming of the race bodywork, depending upon the type of race bodywork you're using. And they also require that you use a steering stop. Brake master cylinder, when you put this clamp on, you want to make sure that the up arrow is always facing up. You know, a lot of what you're going to see here too is not going to be a finished, you know, a completely finished result for us. There's a lot of other steps that we'll go through. I'll get Max on the bike, really dial stuff in. For the purpose of this video, we just want to get this done, get it good, and give you an idea of how these stack up on the bike. So we're not going to show all those steps. With a brake master like this, the uppermost bolt is the first one you tighten. Go ahead and tighten that all the way. And then the actual torque for the clamp is completed with the lower. Make sure the throttle is tight. Let's go ahead and slide our lever guard into position. Had a little fall in the rain with this bike at Barber on Saturday and put it back together, but arguably did not make it perfect. It was ridden the remainder of that weekend. I think we did a couple of track days with our friends from Sportbike Track Time when we got home. And that's it. Waiting on the new one. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up just a little bit now so we're able to rotate it so I can set the clip-ons. All right, now we can jump over and assemble the clutch side. Okay, clutch side. You can see the L's etched on the bottom of the cuffs. Same process we showed you on the other side. What I found too is after an initial install with a set of new clip-ons, the fasteners that I have found are most likely to require a retorque are the ones that actually hold the cuff together on the fork tube. So what I like to do is after the first ride, whether I'm riding it, Max is riding it, whatever, I like to double check those every time after the first ride. And you'll find they typically move just a little bit. Let's do the same thing we did here on the other side. Just kind of get that gap so it's relatively even. All the Woodcraft stuff is top-notch, super nice hardware, quality machining is excellent. Okay. Same deal we did on the other side. I'll put just a little bit of torque to them right now, and this is just more about trying to get things even. And I'll loosen them up to rotate them around. There's a pretty good spot. Now we can assemble the riser. Same process we showed you on the other side. A little bit of blue. That tapered seat hardware too, that really makes a difference because there's just so much surface area between the fastener and that riser. So you have all that friction there to help hold it. Add a little bit of blue Loctite to that, and then torquing those pieces down. You should not have to have any worry at all for that point. Woodcraft is a brand that you're not familiar with. A little background on them. The guy at the front of it, who designs the products too, been riding and racing for a long time at a very high level. He's a rider coach. So he's actually using the products that he develops, literally using the very same products that he develops. He's got a rider base too that he's worked with for years. That will also, when he has products that are brand new, that he's getting ready to bring to market, as he's going through the development phase, he'll have people other than just himself using these, test them out to make sure that they get the job done. And I don't think you're going to find a lot of other brands that offer that same benefit. Certainly there's a lot of other great stuff out there, but I think that's kind of one of the intangibles with Woodcraft that I think is pretty bitchin'. 9 foot-pounds approximately there on the top. Okay, so we've got our cuff all assembled, nice even gap there. Now we need to go ahead and slide the bar through. I like to do, Max likes to run the bars as far out as possible, so when I install these, I like to to get them just to the point where the plug that he has on the inside of the bar is right on the edge of the cuff itself. Next up is our grip. We're just going to use the same grip that we had on the bike. Just like I told you, this thing's going. Actually, I think I'm going to keep it. I think it's just going to be like his B-bike or something. Okay, this round. And this is stuff that, like I said, before the bike gets ridden, it would get fine-tuned. This is the switch pod for our rain light. It's a Moto America requirement. Okay, now we're ready to set the angle of the bars. This is where we have options. We can leave them at the height that we have here right now, okay? You're also able to lower the cuffs so they're not flush against the triple tree to really dial in the height to the most appropriate spot for yourself or for your rider, right? If you're wrenching on a bike for somebody else. If you're going to want to drop them, a great way to do that is to go ahead and grab another one of your Allens and use that as a spacer between the bottom of the top triple clamp and the top of the clip-on cuff. See how I kind of lowered that down. To rotate now. We have the benefit of having already done this once. So I already have an idea of where we wanted to be to have the same height that we had previously. And for us, using a 6mm Allen in there, that got us to virtually the same exact spot. Come to the other side, do the same thing. You might prefer running them right at the bottom of the top triple, that's up to you. I wanted to show you this because this is an option that is available. And with our bike, we had on previous to this set here, and this is what I plan to use now for next year. Previous to this set, we had on a set of the Evol Tech Clip-Ons, which were great. I mean, they really ergonomically put the bars in a spot where Max really, he was super happy, which is great. The only issue I had with them is the repair each time was more difficult and required more work simply to fix it than what we were used to previously with the set of Woodcrafts, which would typically entail just replacing a bar. Okay, so setting the angle of the bars. When we were at Laguna this year, there's some dude walking around the pits from GLS Motorsport. I apologize, dude, I forgot your name, but he is an engineer and he 3D printed, designed and 3D printed this really cool clip-on alignment device. You're able to use the variety of bikes. If you want to find them, just Google GLS Motorsport. You can see it right there. He's got a little logo on this alignment tool. This thing's pretty bitchin'. So what I did before I took the bike apart is I went in and I measured the previous angle. And then we'll go ahead and set these bars in the same position. You know, once you get a rider or yourself, you get used to a certain position and you're happy with it, the last thing you want to do is change that. Because, you know, you get on it, it's almost like you're riding a whole different bike. So let's go ahead and torque these down now. And notice all I'm using here is just a 5mm Allen wrench. I'm not putting a ton of torque on it. You don't want to go bananas on these things. It's more important that they're even than you have a ton of torque. A little tougher to reach the ones on the inside. We talked about that earlier. You're not something you can kind of mess around. Maybe you have to rotate the bars a little bit to get in there. That's stuff that we will, of course, before the bike is ridden, I'm going to go through all that and make sure it's perfect. For the purpose of this video, we're not going to do that. Okay. Double check, make sure we don't have any clearance related issues. The bars are probably relatively close to where Max would like them. That's something that, you know, him and I would set together before he takes the bike out. Sweep the bars back and forth a number of times, okay? It is so critical with your controls. You don't put yourself in a position where the levers are smashing against the bodywork, right? Dragging on, you just can't have that, right? The controls need to move without any obstruction, no chance of binding, right? If what you see here is something you don't feel comfortable with, then don't tackle this project yourself. With clip-on installs, or even rear sets, what I found over the years is don't give yourself zero time to do that before your track day or your race weekend. You want to get them ordered in advance, get them on the motorcycle, especially with a set like this. Going to ride at a much lower position than the Woodcraft clip-ons that are designed to work with the OEM bodywork. We've used those before, okay? That's a pretty easy install, not a lot of drama because it's designed to use the OE stuff. This particular set rides much lower than that, puts the bike in a more ergonomic position for track days and or racing, but it also increases the possibility of bodywork interference. I have cut this OEM gauge holder all apart with a die grinder. Okay, this big plastic piece used to come all the way back here. I've relieved the bodywork big time in this area on both sides. I did that for the other clip-ons and it worked for this set too, okay? What you don't want to do is go bolting these on a Thursday night when you need to load your trailer Thursday night because you're leaving Friday and then you find out, oh shit, this is dragging all over the bodywork, you're all pissed off, you're throwing tools, it wrecks the weekend. Order these early, that way you have enough time to be patient with the project and get what is most important, which is a great end result. If If you have any questions, leave those in the comment section of this video. I answer all that stuff myself, and I'm always here to make sure you get the best result from your next project.